So you've been playing Genshin, you have Clorinde, you watched the basics guide, which if you didn't, you should totally go check it out right here. And you're wondering what to do for her late game. So in this video, we are going to look at a couple different teams for her, a couple different artifact sets for her. And in those artifacts, we're gonna be looking at the stats that you want. This is her artifact grinding hell video. And to get started, we're going to take a look at the Clorinde that we are using. We are using a different Clorinde than we used in the basics video. This Clorinde belongs to one of my mods, Soup, also known as Broth Brawler. So thank you, Broth Brawler, for letting me use your Clorinde. So Broth Brawler's Clorinde is I gotta stop saying it. I'm gonna keep messing it up. Soup's Clorinde is level 90 out of 90 with 1900 attack, 112 EM. Her crit split is 57.3 over 231.5 with 114 energy recharge. And then she does have an Electro Goblet on Clorinde. For weapon, she is running a level 80 Absolution. Cloud Soup, you better, I almost said Cloud Soup, you better get that up to level 90. Artifact set, Whimsy. We're going to talk more about artifact sets whenever we get to that portion, and we're going to talk about two different artifact sets and the different teams that they're viable in. We're going to start out with Whimsy, and we'll also look at these individual artifacts later in the video as well. She is C0 and her talents are 4, 8, 6. So Whimsy is going to be very, very good in 2 of the 3 teams. The other artifact set is going to be good in 2 of the 3 teams. So this is going to be Aggravate team. We are going to be using Clorinde, C6 Fischl, Nahida, and Jean. Jean is in there for the VV Shred and the healing. You could run somebody else for that healing slot. I prefer to have a healer. This is similar-ish to the team that we were using in the first video, which was much more of a quick bloom team. This is a straight up Aggravate team, where we're going to be allowing Clorinde and Fischl to get aggravate reactions to just be doing a ton of damage against these enemies. Of course, doing her skill, doing 3 basic attacks, then using her skill again to clear out the Bond of Life to then build it back up again. Having Oz on the field as much as possible to be used with Clorinde because her normal attack, her 3 normal attacks after using her skill are still considered normal attacks. They still work with C6 Fischl to help keep that aggravate status or that quicken status on the enemy. So this is going to be a fairly good team. Of course, if you don't have Nahida, you can swap in another Dendro character. Now let's look at the artifact set. 4-piece Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy. This is the new artifact set that is also really, really good for Arlecchino. 2-piece attack goes up. 4-piece, when the value of a Bond of Life increases or decreases, this character deals 18% more damage overall. It's not any specific kind of damage. 4 to 6 seconds with a max of 3 stacks. With how Clorinde's kit works, with how much you are moving the Bond of Life value, it is going to be insanely easy to keep all stacks up. The flower, crit rate, crit damage, HP percent, ER. If that HP percent had been attack or EM, would have been phenomenal. Attack is probably going to be more wanted on this set than EM because of the other team that it works in. We would want attack, not EM. But other than that HP, this is a really, really good artifact. For the plume, EM, HP percent, crit rate, crit damage. That HP is going to keep popping up. Again, if this had attack percent instead of HP percent, it would have been really, really good. In this particular instance, EM is fine. ER would have also been good there. You'll see why I say that attack over EM whenever we look at the third team. It'll kind of make more sense, and I'll talk about that. Attack Sands, crit rate, crit damage, that HP again, and then ER, really, really good. Again, had that HP, in this instance, had that HP been EM, it would have been perfectly fine. For the Goblet, Electro Goblet, crit rate, crit damage, EM, again, HP. If that EM had been ER or attack percent, that would have been much, much better. If that HP had been attack percent, that EM had been ER, that's where I think it would have been much, much better. If you are solely going to be using Clorinde in an aggravate team, then EM over attack or energy recharge. Crit damage, circlet with attack percent, ER, HP, again, had to have HP on every single one. And then crit rate. If that HP percent had been EM, this would have been the perfect artifact, right? At least the perfect substats. Now, this artifact set does in fact work in an aggravate team, but we're gonna swap to a different artifact set that also works in an aggravate team, and that is going to be 4-piece Thundering Fury. Now, before Golden Troop came out, Thundering Fury was Fischl's best artifact set. So if you've been playing the game for a while, you might have a Thundering Fury set lying around, which means that you could just give this straight away to Clorinde and be able to run 2 of the 3 teams that we're going to talk about in this video. Now, the 2-piece Thundering Fury set does get up electro damage bonus, which is going to be good for Clorinde. The 4-piece set is going to increase the damage of specific electro reactions, as well as decrease the skill cooldown. We're gonna take a look back at Clorinde's stats and see what else has changed with them. Her HP is a little lower, her attack is gonna be around the same. Her EM is again around the same, 60 over 252. Once we have used her skill, or once we have used her passive, that is going to be 80 crit damage or crit rate. So this is actually a better split than what she had on Whimsy. So we are going to take this back in doing the exact same team and just show that you do get an increase in damage of the aggravate, kind of just see what the numbers look like in comparison from the first set than on this one. Now, we're not getting the increase in damage bonus overall. It has to be a reaction. It's only going to affect the reaction damage. It's not going to affect damage overall. So that is a very, very important distinction whenever you're looking at how these artifact sets, right? We need to be causing as many aggravate reactions as we can to get the full bonus of this set. Now, we're going to change the team slightly and talk about the second kind of team that Clorinde can be good in, and that is going to be a quick bloom team where you're doing aggravate, quicken, and hyper bloom. So for that, we are going to take Fischl out and we're going to put Farina in. We're still going to keep Jean because we still want the VV Shred and we still want the party-wide healing, so that way Farina can stack fanfare points. Now, the beauty of this team, quick bloom teams were not super easy to do before Farina came out. With Farina, they're much, much easier to do. So we want slow hydro application, so that way we're still going to get aggravate, we're still going to get quicken, but then every now and then we're going to get some blooms to trigger hyper bloom. This is the artifact set, or this artifact set is also going to be good in this because it does increase the hyper bloom damage as well. And you're getting Nihida to buff up EM, so you don't have to put a ton into Clorinde's EM. This is one of those things where if you'd gotten some EM substats, it would have been really good on Thundering Fury. Not so much on Whimsy, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but in Thundering Fury, EM substats would be good because we are only going to be causing aggravate and hyper bloom, where the EM is going to help increase both of those reaction damage. So just like we showed, Whimsy is going to be good in an aggravate team, Thundering Fury is going to be good in an aggravate and a quick bloom. Now we're going to change the team once again, and for that we need to go back to Whimsy because Thundering Fury is not going to be good in this last team. And that is because we are going to be running a Clorinde, Chevy, not necessarily hyper carry team, not kind of like how I run my Raiden team, but it's going to be Clorinde, Fischl, Chevy, and Bennett. Chevy is going to be the shredder and attack buffer of this team. You have to have Chevy, and you can only have pyro and electro characters. Now, yes, Thundering Fury says it increases the damage of overloader reactions. We don't care about the actual damage that comes from that reaction. We just care that we cause the reaction because of how Chevy works. We want attack and overall damage. We don't want damage going towards the overloaded reaction. So that is why Thundering Fury is not going to do well in this, because it increases the damage of overloaded. We don't care about that. We want overall damage to go up. So we're going to go back to Whimsy, which is going to be this is going to be the second team that Whimsy is going to be really, really good in. So for this, we need to cause overloaded reactions before we go into Chevy, using Chevy's hold skill to then make the enemies weaker to pyro and electro. Fischl and Clorinde are then just going to be doing a ton of damage because of that. If Chevy had her A4 passive, which she does not in this team because she's only level 40, then she would also be giving an attack buff to Clorinde and Fischl, which is going to be really good because Bennett's also going to give an attack buff to Clorinde. So this is going to be a really, really good team. In fact, I run this team, or a hyper carry version of this team, for my Raiden, which is Raiden, C6 Sara, Chevy, and C6 Benny. Also, you can run C6 Benny with Clorinde because her Electro Infusion cannot be overridden, whereas a character like Keqing's can be. Now, this particular team with Chevy overloaded, you do have to be much more controlling of your rotation. You have to be much more correct in your rotation to make it work, whereas with the Aggravate teams, you don't have to be as much. Yes, there is going to be a correct rotation in that, but if you don't hit it or if you miss a key, it's much more forgiving than something like this team, where if you bring out Chevy too soon, you don't get the buff that her A4 passive gives. So you need to make sure that you're bringing her out at a correct time, and you need to make sure that you're still causing overloaded reactions on enemies. So it's much more important on this team to have your rotation down pat. So now we're gonna look at some weapons. Of course, you do have Absolution, which is her signature, but if you don't have Absolution, then we're gonna talk about some other 4 and 5-star weapon choices. So you do have Ayaka's signature, which is gonna get up crit rate, and it's gonna give her some all elemental damage bonus, which is good because she can use that. This would allow you to stack more into crit damage on your stats. However, she has a lot of ways of getting crit rate beyond just substats and artifacts. She has a passive that gives it. So it's much more important, in my opinion, to have a crit damage weapon. Like Mist Splitter would be another great option. If you are looking for a 4-star option, you do have Black Sword, which is a battle pass weapon, so you can get it at any point in time. It is going to get up crit rate, but the damage dealt by normal and charge attack is increased. And because of how her skill works, it considers it normal attack, but it's still calculated off of elemental skill damage. But because it's considered normal attack, this would still buff it. Now that is going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, do be sure to leave it down in the comments. Myself or somebody else will be sure to answer it. I'll see you in the next one.